All right, welcome to the Glendale Housing Authority meeting for November 2nd, being called to order at 2:10 p.m. To help slow the transmission of COVID-19 and protect the health recommendation and situation with the COVID-19 novel coronavirus and health recommendations from LA County Health Department, the Glendale Housing Authority meeting will be available to the public electronically. Due to social distancing requirements, the public will not be able to attend the meeting. The public is encouraged to watch and participate from the safety of their homes and practice social distancing. This meeting can be viewed online on local cable charter cable channel 6 and AT&T Uverse channel 99. It's streaming online at glendaleca.gov through the portal, as well as available through other streaming services. With that, and if you'd like to comment on any of the items before you today, you can call 818-937-8100. Public comments on specific agenda items will be taken when the agenda item is discussed. Let's have roll call, please.
Authority Member Argenian. Authority Member Argenian. Authority Member Argenian.
Present.
There you go.
Agajanian.
Present.
Brotman.
Here.
Divine.
Here.
Najarian.
Pleasant.
Parazian.
Here.
And Chair Kasakian.
Here. Let us have your report, please.
The agenda for the November 2nd, 2021 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on October 26, 2021 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
And next is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve in a second?
May I move the items?
I'll move for me.
All right, it was moved and seconded by Authority Member Agajanian and Authority Member Parazian. If there are no objections, the minutes will stand approved as submitted. Are there any calls for oral communication?
There are no calls.
Seeing as there are no calls for oral communication, is there any authority member? We will move on and close that portion. Is there any authority member or staff comments? Anyone? All right. Seeing as there are none, we will now entertain a motion to adjourn the Housing Authority meeting as well as a second for that adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Thank you. The meeting is now adjourned at 2:12 p.m.
Thank you. And now we'll begin the joint meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Housing Authority for November the 2nd, 2021, being called to order at 2:12. For those of you that have just tuned in, as you know, to slow the transmission of COVID-19 and protect the health and safety of the community, City Council as well as board and commission meetings will continue to be closed to the public for in-person attendance. We do ask you to watch or encourage you to watch our broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable, Channel 6 and AT&T Uverse, Channel 99. They're also being streamed live in high definition on the website and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire devices using a free app called ScreenWeave and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. For public comments and questions during this meeting, please call 818-937-8100. Your comments on a specific agenda item will be taken when that agenda item is discussed. Roll call, please, for council.
Councilmember Agajanian.
Present.
Brotman.
Here.
Kasakian.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
And Mayor Divine.
Here. And for housing.
Authority Member Argenian.
Present.
Agajanian.
Present.
Brotman.
Here.
Divine.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
And Parazian.
Here.
Chair Kasakian.
Here.
And your report, please.
The agenda for the Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021 joint public meeting of the City Council and the Housing Authority was posted on October 26, 2021 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And the items, please.
One would be community development regarding proposal to adopt a relocation plan for Housing Authority owned land at 912 East Broadway in Glendale, California, 91205 zip code in support of Harrower Village, a 40-unit, 100% affordable rental housing project reserved for seniors. A Housing Authority resolution to approve a relocation plan for Housing Authority on land at 912 East Broadway in Glendale, California, 91205. B, council motion to approve an amendment to the professional service agreement with Overland Pacific and Cutler LLC in the amount of $66,778 for a new not-to-exceed amount of $246,778. C, council resolution of appropriation in the amount of $50,000 to increase the city's contract with Overland Pacific and Culture LLC.
Thank you. Mr. Galanian?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor Devine, members, City Council, Housing Chair Kasakian, members of the Housing Authority. 912 East Broadway is one of the two parcels of land properties that recently Housing Authority purchased in our efforts to create more affordable housing for Glendale, for our residents. And this relocation plan is the next step in that process to accomplish the start of the construction of these 40-unit affordable housing development. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Fortney, our Principal Housing Project Manager, for a brief presentation on the item.
Thank you, City Manager. Good afternoon, Mayor Devine, City Council members, Housing Authority Chair Kasakian, Housing Authority Board members. I'm Mike Fortney, Principal Housing Project Manager. As the City Manager
Excuse
mentioned-
me, this is, I'm having trouble hearing all of you.
Is it better?
Somehow you can either speak closer to the mic or if there's an IT problem.
Your mask, Mike. Take it out.
Are you able to hear me now?
I can better.
Yeah, okay.
Speak into the mic, yeah.
All right. I can start. Good afternoon, Mayor Devine, City Council members, Housing Authority Chair Kasakian, Housing Authority Board members. I'm Mike Fortney, Principal Housing Project Manager for the city. The first item is 912 East Broadway. There are 3 actions that we're asking for. One would be approval of the relocation plan. We bought the property 2 years ago in October of 2019, and we continued to lease the property to Tobin World, the school, until December of 2019. And then from that point on, we continued to rent just one building, and that was 912 East Broadway. And we rented it to 3 tenants, 2 residential tenants, and 1 mental health facility, which was being operated as part of Tobin World before. So now the time has come to relocate those tenants. The mental health facility is not entitled to any relocation benefits. So the dollar amount that we're asking for, the $83,000, that is for the 2 tenants. And just to give you an update on what is happening, Tobin World itself, the school, is no longer operating. But the mental health facility and the 2 tenants, they will be relocating to the city of Pasadena. They acquired a building, a mixed-use building, and they're going through the tenant improvement process now. We had given a 90-day notice to vacate, and that 90 days would have expired November 30th. In order to help accommodate the move, particularly of Tobin, we extended that 30 days to December 31st. So that'll be their last day occupying that. And I'll just say briefly, 920 East Broadway, which includes the 912 site, that's the historic building, it did not get funded for tax credits, so it's not going to officially break ground. However, the property next to it, 900 East Broadway, did get funded and will break ground in late February, early March this year. And because of that, we're going to start the work in the Paseo, the alley. We're going to shut that alley down to traffic, create a pedestrian Paseo. That includes relocating the utilities. So sometime around January 15th, we expect that utility work to start, and that the perm power will be cut to the entire campus at 912, 920 East Broadway, and it'll be on temp power. So that's why we have to move the tenants out now. So that's the point of getting the relocation plan approved now, and that $83,000, that's direct assistance to the 2 tenants. The other thing we're looking to do, it was a little bit confusing with the fiscal impact. We had originally budgeted $100,000 for relocation. The price tag came in at just right at $83,000. So what we want to do is we want to take the $17,000 delta between what our estimate for relocation was, take that as well as 50,000 more, increase Overland Pacific Cutler's contract with the city. And the reason for that partly is because OPC spent a considerably more time than we had anticipated trying to find a suitable location for both Tobin as caretaker and the mental health facility. But also, we don't have a professional management company out there at Tobin World. It's really been just staff trying to handle everything. And we've had Ywca managing the property in terms of going out, cleaning it up, periodically every 2 weeks or so. We have subcontracted with OPC to remove the vines. If you recall, there was vines all over the historic buildings. So we did have that done. But there's other work that we need to have OPC subcontract for to keep the property maintained. Because Abode Housing did not get the tax credit award this late fall and has to apply again in March. So we're holding the property longer than we anticipated. So those additional funds to the OPC contract are basically to help us manage and maintain the site until Abode gets that tax credit award and then signs a lease, and then now, from that point on, we'll be responsible for the site. So those are the actions before you now that staff recommends approval of. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from my colleagues?
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Najarian, go ahead.
So, Mike, how come they didn't get the tax credits this round? Is there something that was short, or, 'cause isn't this the project we put extra money in to make it sweeter?
It's a good question.
I mean, not sweeter, but more,
We put $4 million into the 920 East Broadway site, which is about what we had anticipated. So it was the 900 site where we put considerable amount more money in. But that's because we switched it from family to senior and increased the unit. The reason why we didn't get awarded this round was there were some tiebreakers that we just did not expect, really high tiebreakers. So several projects in LA County, geographic area, did not get funded. So we're gonna take a look before March and see which tiebreakers didn't get funded that were still higher than us. I think there was 2, maybe even 3 projects. That's how high the tiebreakers were this time. And so we'll strategize before we go into March to try to get that award. I'll just say kind of generally, in LA County, there is considerable amount of money out for special needs projects. So when a local jurisdiction goes for a project like 920 East Broadway, which is a pretty small project, and say they put in the $3.5–4 million, but they also get an additional couple $1 million from the county to focus on a special needs population. Those dollars also count and drive their tiebreaker up. So that's really what we were up against. And some of those have the option of applying in the LA County, balance of LA County, and some have the option of applying under the special needs. So in this case, we just had several projects with tiebreakers higher than ours. So we'll really have to strategize hard before March and try to get a good high tiebreaker that's going to win the award.
thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have a question. Tobin World has been in Glendale for many years, and now they're moving to Pasadena. Did they look in Glendale for another location? Do you know?
So, Ms. Devine, I just want to clarify, Tobin World no longer operates as a school. Judy Weber was the owner of that school. She retired 2 years ago. It's the whole reason why they put the property up for sale. However, that mental health facility has been a part of Tobin World. For how long, I'm not sure. Tobin World was here for 30 years. I don't believe the mental health facility was here that whole time. But to answer the question directly on whether they looked for a property that the mental health facility could continue to operate in and have Tobin and his caretaker live in, yes. The answer is yes. OPC worked with them for almost the whole 2 years trying to find a suitable spot. And it's just difficult to find a building in their price range that would accommodate and provide enough square footage for that mental health facility, yet also would have 2 separate residential units that would be suitable for Tobin and his caretaker. It was a monumental task to try to find a building like that. They did look in Glendale, but ultimately they finally found one in Pasadena.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I just was interested if they had tried in Glendale. Okay, then on this one, we need a,
May I move the item?
for council?
Yes, for council.
And can we move B and C together?
Yes, you may.
All right, let's, Councilmember Agajanian, you want to move B and
Yes.
C?
A, B, and C.
No,
No?
just B and C.
Just B and C.
No, just B and C for
Okay, we'll
council.
move, right. The other one I will offer later. B and C
All right.
for council.
Roll call, please, for
It
council.
requires a second. I'll second it.
Thank you. Councilmember Kasakian. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes.
Can we have a motion and a second for 1A for Housing
Yes.
Authority?
I will move the item 1A for housing.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Authority Member Ajinian,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Parazian. Authority Member Parazian. And Chair Kasakian.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item would be number 2, Community Development regarding membership in the California Public Finance Authority, Joint Powers Authority, and Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act. Public hearing for California Public Finance Authority proposed issuance of approximately $33 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bond in support of Citrus Crossing, 900 East Broadway, a Glendale senior affordable housing project to be constructed, operated, and maintained by 900 East Broadway LP, a partnership created by Meta Housing Corporation. A city council resolution to approve, authorize, and direct execution of a joint exercise of powers agreement relating to the California Public Finance Authority, making Glendale an additional member. B, city council resolution to approve the issuance by the California Public Finance Authority of multifamily housing revenue bonds in aggregate principal amount not to exceed $33 million for the purpose of financing the construction or improvement of Citrus Crossing.
Thank you. Mr. Galanian?
Yes, Mayor, Devine, members, City Council, Housing Chair, Housing Authority Chair, Kasakian, members of Housing Authority. 900 East Broadway is the second of the 2 properties on East Broadway that Housing Authority has purchased. Again, these 2 items are the next steps in the process of accomplishing your goal and of creating more affordable housing. With that, Mike Fortney, again, Principal Housing Project Manager, for a presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Galanian. Good afternoon again, Mayor Devine and City Council members, Chair Kasakian and Housing Authority Board members, Mike Fortney, Principal Housing Project Manager. This project that we're here for, Citrus Crossing, otherwise known as 900 East Broadway, that's our 127-unit senior housing project. Very happy to say that that is getting financed with 4% tax credits and bonds, as well as the local amount of dollars that we're contributing with land and cash. So what we're here for today is, number 1, to become an additional member of the California Public Finance Authority. That's the agency that's going to issue the $33 million in bonds. The TEFRA hearing is not new to us. I think we just had a TEFRA hearing about 6-8 weeks ago for an existing building that's undergoing rehabilitation, that's getting 4% tax credits to do that. So that's happened multiple times over the past 10, 15 years. This one's a little bit different because it's our project that we're sponsoring at 900 East Broadway called Citrus Crossing. We're actually sponsoring that project. It's our affordable housing project. Typically, we've gone after 9% tax credits, and a TEFRA hearing isn't needed for that. But for the 4%, which is what we're doing, the TEFRA hearing is necessary. So that's what we're here for. It was properly noticed on October 25th. In addition to the local number, 818-937-8100 to call in for comments, a toll-free number, 833-979-8100 was also set up so that members of the community could call in and voice any concerns or questions regarding the TEFRA hearing. So that's what we're looking for here. We're looking for 2 things. Number 1, approval to become an additional member of California Public Finance Agency, or Authority, And then also approval of the issuance by the California Public Finance Agency, the issuance of $33 million in tax-exempt bonds for the benefit of 900 East Broadway's development. Those are the two actions, and I'm happy to answer, or try to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions from my colleagues?
I would like to move the item A.
Public hearing.
And
If
B?
there's-
Can we open the public
And
hearing
we-
and then close it? If there are no comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, was this a hearing? Okay. We'll close the hearing. Open it and close it, actually.
Okay.
There are no callers.
Thank you.
I would like to move item 1 and 2, the resolutions.
A and B.
2A and B.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I will second.
Kasakian, roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Kasakian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
And Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item would be 3, Community Service and Parks regarding status of program planning for fiscal year 2022, 2023, CDBG, ESG Home Annual Action Plan, and shift in funds from the canceled fiscal year 2018, 2019 CDBG project to the fiscal year 2021, 2022 CBDG project. A, City Council motion approving the fiscal year 2022, 2023 CDBG program priorities of fiscal year 2022, 2023, proposed CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category and issuance of an RFP to community agencies for CDBG, public social services, and CDBG capital improvements projects. B would be Housing Authority motion approving the fiscal year 2022, 2023 CDBG program priorities of fiscal year 2022, 2023, proposed CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category and issuance of an RFP to community agencies for CDBG, public social services, and CDBG capital improvement projects. C, City Council motion to amend the current fiscal year 2021, 2022 CDBG annual action plan to reprogram $65,000 from canceled fiscal year 2018, 2019 Adventist Health Glendale Windows Project to the currently funded fiscal year 2021, 2022 YMCA of Glendale first floor all-inclusive locker room project as recommended by the CDBG Advisory Committee. D would be City Council resolution of appropriation in the amount of $65,000 to shift the return CDBG funds from the canceled fiscal year 2018-2019 Adventist Health Glendale Windows project to the fiscal year 2021-2022 YMCA of Glendale First Floor all-inclusive locker room project as recommended by the CDBG Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Galanian.
Yes, Mayor Devine, members, City Council, Housing Authority, Chair Kasakian, members of Housing Authority. There is a lot of content to cover on this item, but I'm pretty confident that Maggie Kavarian, our very capable presenter, will keep it within 5 minutes as promised.
I do promise. Thank you, City Manager Galanian. Mayor Devine, members of the City Council, members of the Housing Authority, we have a very brief presentation for you regarding our program planning for our upcoming 2022-2023 program year. So the purpose of program planning is to determine our program priorities for the upcoming year. It also includes our CDBG funding allocation plan that we put together. And then, of course, after today's item is approved, we issue an RFP to our community agencies for public social services programs and capital improvement projects. We met in October 14th of 2021 with the CDBG Advisory Committee, and we presented the program priorities, made recommendations. The committee had reviewed and recommended the funding allocation plan that we present to you today, and also reviewed the RFP process and timeline. Part of the program planning also includes citizenship participation, a very large portion of our community needs assessment. This year, again, we had to use 3 platforms for community input due to the COVID pandemic. We had an offering of a virtual meeting, we had an email comment period, and a telephone call-in period. Also part of our community needs assessment, we update census graphics using the American Community Survey to update our numbers and to see if there's any number changes that we need to be made aware of. We also review our 5-year consolidated plan, which is our strategic plan for 2020 to 2025. We held our virtual community meeting on September 29th. We had 21 residents who participated and provided input and feedback. This year, we didn't have any email or telephone comments during the telephone comment and email period from September 27th to October 1st. We established our program priorities for the upcoming year to include community facilities, public service and public infrastructure, special needs services, housing, special needs housing, and business and jobs that were included. We also plan our funding allocation plan, and we make estimates of what our entitlement funding will look like for the upcoming year. And this year, we estimate that our Cdbg grant will be $2 million, our emergency solutions grant, which funds our homeless services programs, at $175,000, and our home investment partnership at $1.5 million, a little over $3.6 million in funding that we are anticipating. We won't know our final numbers until February or March when the federal budget is finally passed. So to break down the Cdbg funding allocation plan, like I said in the previous slide, we're anticipating about $2 million for Cdbg baseline allocation. We also have $66,000 in unappropriated fund balance. These are from closed projects that we've had from 2015 through 2019, which closed but had a little bit of money left over. We built quite a good pot, and we are using that in the upcoming fiscal year to allocate to community agencies. Just as a reminder to the council and the housing authority, that $66,000 can only be used for capital improvement projects, not for program administration or public social services projects. So let me break down the $2 million, the way it is through the percentages. $400,000 will go to program administration for staffing and review of proposals and the overall administration of the programs. Also, $300,000, there's a 15% cap on the funding, so $300,000 will go to public social services programs, and then the bulk, $1.3 million, will go to capital improvement projects. When we break down the capital improvement projects, every year, this is a city council directive, we always have a city pre-designated project, and this year we're proposing $416,000 to fund the upcoming Section 108 loan repayment. We will have a report for you after this report is completed to go more in depth with Section 108. So for the pre-designated city project, we are requesting $4 million loan to pay for Fremont Park renovation project. We have a little bit of a budget gap there, and the $4 million would be paid over 10 years with a 4% interest. We're estimating about $416,000 a year and I apologize, it should be from 2022 to 2032. Also in the report, we are requesting the transfer of funds from the 2018-2019 Adventist Health Windows project in the amount of $65,000 to be transferred to this current year, 2021-2022, YMCA Glendale, first floor, all-inclusive locker room project. The reason for the return funding is the agency had some budgetary constraints and they had to give their money back. So to give the council and the housing authority a little bit of background, our RFP proposal timeline and process really starts in September. This is also a council directive that we had 4 years ago, that we start advertising to more nonprofits. And we had our 4th annual virtual open house, and we had a really good attendance. We had 22 attendees from different agencies attend, and we explained the how-tos of the Cdbg program. And this year, in this funding period, we have 3 new agencies that have been funded. Glendale Community College Foundation, we have the Armenian Engineers and Scientists of America, and we also have the Campbell Center funded this year. So we're really proud that we're getting more and more agencies involved in CDBG. So we're also going to be doing the issuance of the RFP tomorrow. And we will also offer a virtual technical assistance workshop the first week of December. And then our RFP submittal due date will be September 30th. We estimate between 15 to 20 CDBG funding proposals that we receive, thank you, that will be received annually. And 10 to 15 tend to be social services projects, and 2 to 4 tend to be capital improvement projects. And then the real bulk of the work starts in January when we begin to review the projects. When we begin to review the proposals that are submitted. Staff begin to review them, analyze strengths and weaknesses, put together those packets, and send them off to our CDBG advisory committee where they review them as well. And at the end of February, we put together the interview process. We interview the agencies, committee deliberates and develops funding recommendations, and then we come back to the Council and Housing Authority in May to do the final approval of the action plan. So to finish up here today, City Council and Housing Authority action, we are requesting that the CDBG priorities and the funding allocation plan for 2022-2023 is approved. We also ask that we issue the CDBG RFP for public social services and capital improvement projects. And then we also transfer $65,000 from Adventist Windows Project to the YMCA of Glendale first floor all-inclusive locker room project. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
You're muted, Madam Mayor.
You're on mute, Madam Mayor.
Mute.
Madam Mayor, we can't hear you.
Oh,
There we go.
okay, there we go. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Sorry.
No.
No questions.
Not a question, but just a compliment to both Ms. Kavarian and Mr. Bolanikian and to the rest of the city staff for really pulling things together and being able to identify sources and include the community in trying to find places where this money can be used to advance the social services and close gaps and truly to accomplish the goals intended for CDBG funds. So thank you, Maggie, thank you, Oni, and Rubik and the rest of your team.
Thank you, Mr. Casson.
Good job, Maggie. I'm glad to hear that there are other agencies coming forward for funding. That's promising. I wanted to float an idea, and I don't know if any of my colleagues would go for it or not, but I'd like to suggest that we, instead of borrowing $4 million for the Section 8 loan guarantee repayment application, had to borrow $4 million for Fremont Park, that perhaps we take $1 million out of our
Madam Mayor?
Measure
Yes.
S.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you. Our Measure S funding.
Madam
and
Mayor?
put it into this. Yes.
I apologize for interrupting, but I believe you're referring to the next item on the Section 108 loan guarantee program.
Oh, I thought that was in this item. Did she mention that? That
She did.
$400,000 a
Maggie.
year will be paying?
Madam Mayor, it is part of the funding allocation plan that we are proposing. The next report
Right.
will delve deeper into the Section 108 loan that Mr. Bulnikin will present.
Oh, okay, so I'll suggest that in the next item. Okay, all right, thank you. With that, let's see, we need a
Yes.
council,
Yes, items 3A,
A,
C, and
and
B.
D.
No,
D, A, C, and D.
A, C, and D.
Thank you. Second,
I'll second it.
thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Kasakian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
And Mayor Devine?
Yes,
And
thank you.
do we have a motion for the housing item at
Yes.
3B?
For item 3B, move to approve item 3B.
Is there a second? Second by Authority Member Devine. May we have a roll call?
Authority Member Aginian?
Yes.
Agajanian?
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Parazian,
Yes.
and Chair Kasakian.
Yes.
Okay, next item. Here we
Item-
go.
Item 4, Community Service and Parks regarding HUD Section 108 Loan Guarantee Program application for Fremont Park Renovation Project. A, City Council resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to submit a Section 108 loan guarantee application to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $4 million with a 10-year repayment term to be used for proposed Fremont Park renovation project and to execute such documents as may be required in order to implement the application.
Thank you. Okay, this is the one I was talking about. Mr. Galanian.
Yes, Mayor Devine, members, City Council, Housing Authority, Chair Kasakian, members of the Housing Authority. Although this item is fairly self-explanatory, and because Mr. Bulanikian's already put together a PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to have him do a brief presentation for you.
Thank you, Mr. Galundan. Yes, this will be very brief. Good afternoon, Mayor Devine, members of the council, Housing Authority, Chair Kasakian, members of the Housing Authority. Really quick, an overview of Section 108 loan. The Section 108 loans are administered by, as part of the Cdbg program. This is a low-cost, long-term financing tool that entitlement cities that have the borrowing power up to 5 times their annual allocation. So we can borrow, as a city, up to a little bit over $9 million for capital projects. The activities must meet the same Cdbg requirements, the HUD's national objective. The project should be in a low to moderate income area, benefiting, eliminating, or preventing blight, and to meet the urgent needs of the community. The loans are repaid with Cdbg funds as part of our program allocation plan that Ms. Kavarian talked about earlier. So we are requesting to borrow $4 million to submit an application in the amount of $4 million for Fremont Park. The loan terms would be for 10 years, starting 2022, ending in 2032, at an interest rate at 4%. So our total interest paid will be $160,000, and we will repay the loan by our annual allocation plan as a pre-designated CIP, city CIP project in the amount of $416,000 for the next 10 years. We have done similar Section 108 loans. The last one was in the amount of $2.5 million for Essentia Access Center, as well as $1.8 million for the Pacific Edison project that was completed back in 2003. Here's the budget overview for Fremont Park renovation. City Council started allocating funds fiscal year 2013-2014. So far, we have $13,650,000 allocated. We have available $12,500,000. The estimated project construction cost is a little under $18 million, $17,699,000. We are requesting $4 million in Section 108. We will need an additional $1.2 million, and we will be asking for Parks Mitigation DIF funds when we bring the report back to council to approve the construction contract. So our timeline, we had a Cdbg meeting back in June to receive approval to proceed with the application process. We had a community meeting in 2021 with a 30-day public comment period informing residents about our substantial amendment to the consolidated plan. Today we are here requesting approval by the City Council and Housing Authority to proceed with the application of the Section 108 loan. And during the winter of 2021-2022, we'll submit the application to HUD, and there will be an estimated 3 to 5 month timeline for final loan application and processing. So we are requesting City Council and the Housing Authority to approve the submission of the Section 108 loan application to HUD for the amount of $4 million for the Fremont Park renovation project.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Bolomikian. Any comments from my colleagues?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question. I wanted to see if staff could respond to something I brought up in the briefings, which is, what's our obligation on the loan in the event that, CDB funding gets cut or somehow eliminated, I know we get it every year, but the federal government sometimes changes course on things, and just wondering how that works legally.
Legally, we would need to pay off the loan if we were to stop receiving funding from CDBG.
Members of council, and we would have to look at that. Again, as I had noted to you yesterday, my recollection was that it's a non-recourse loan, basically secured only by our CDBG allocations. But if that's a concern, it's something we could look at. You can make it a condition of this motion that we clarify that. And if it does require the city to backstop that, we could bring it back for your consideration. Again, I tried looking for the past loan that we've done in this, and that was my recollection, but I haven't been able to confirm it as of yet.
Okay, I mean, I don't think it would be a condition, but I just thought it's something we should know.
Yeah.
All right.
And we'll verify that before the final documents are approved.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, then I will proceed with what I was going to, instead of floating the idea that I had, I would like to ask staff, is it more fiscally responsible to borrow $4 million for 10 years, paying $400,000, $16,000 a year in interest, or to lower it by, let's say, $1 million out of our Measure S funding so that our yearly payments are lower?
Mayor Devine?
Have we run those statistics so that we know that this is the best way to do it?
Mayor Devine, members of the council, Housing Authority, Kasakian, members of the Housing Authority. If council and the Housing Authority decides or wants to save funds, additional interest, it'll be better to use Measure S funds for, allocating $1 million, $1.5 million, $500,000. The loan would be at a lower rate, so we would pay $300,000+ per year for the next 10 years. The Measure S funds are to be used with council's direction for housing, infrastructure, quality of life, community service facilities, and so on. So if council and the Housing Authority allocates Measure S an additional $1 million to the Fremont Park project, it'll meet the guidelines that council and Housing Authority has set to use Measure S funds for.
Do any of my colleagues have any comments on that? And how would you feel about doing that?
Madam Mayor, I would be for any proposal or any action that would expedite the renovation of Fremont Park, quite honestly. However it gets done is secondary to getting it done. So if, I don't know, what do we have set aside? I think at this point in Measure S,
$2 million.
$2 million. I mean, to use $1 million, if it means that we can get this done, I would be supportive of that.
I don't think it has anything to do with expediting, does it? It's just a matter of long-term payments, for 10 years, $400,000 a year. It's not going to make the process any faster.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the process for the loan will take 3 to 5 months, but we are also working on bidding out the project, which will take 6 months, plus we are working on the LCA, the life cycle assessment on artificial turf. So all these are falling into place, so within the next 8 months, we would start the construction, depending on what our LCA report states and what council decides in terms of the field. But moving forward, if we were to allocate additional Measure S funds, this will lower the loan amount. And if we lower the loan amount, there will be more funds available as part of our program allocation yearly for CIP projects, for community projects, as well as city projects.
Madam Mayor, Member City Council, Councilmember Kasakian, the application, submittal of the application for this loan or the use of additional Measure S funds will not have an impact on the schedule for Fremont Park. Staff is working diligently on trying to get that project started regardless of what funding source we use.
Madam Mayor, if I could
Yeah,
make a
Councilmember
comment.
Brotman, go ahead.
I kind of think this is something that we really need the finance department to tell us a little bit more about. You know, for instance, what, I know there's a 4% loan. I don't know kind of what our borrowing capacity and costs are these days, and how that compares. It seems reasonable. It seems good to be locking in that rate now. I think the general consensus is that rates will be going higher, not lower, and unless we think that that's a rate that's higher than we would get through some other borrowing channel, then I would say we take advantage of that and keep our own powder dry for whatever we need, acquisitions, anything. You know, we want to keep our resources available for something that might be unexpected.
So you're saying to borrow the 4 million and pay the 416 yearly on the
Well,
4% loan?
I mean, I'm inclined to do that, but I think it's really something we need input from finance. I mean, is that a competitive loan? Do we feel good about those terms? Can we do better? And, you know, I don't really feel competent to say, but in general, I would lean in that direction.
Madam Mayor, Member City Council,
Yes.
Councilmember Brotman, generally speaking, we don't typically like to borrow, as you know, for projects as such, and the qualification process and the qualification terms are different for different projects. And if the availability of CDBG funds through HUD wasn't a matter of availability right now, we wouldn't borrow to pay for this project. We essentially will take it from general fund, which Measure S essentially is part of the general fund. So like you mentioned, Councilmember Brotman, it's our own funding as opposed to borrowing against the CDBG allocation that we get on an annual basis.
No, excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Agajanian?
I agree with the assessment Mr. Brotman came up because interest rate is very low now. I would suggest if we borrow the money, it will be better now because in future we won't be able to borrow any money with such a low rate. So I would like to see we borrow the $4 million now and then at a later time to use the funds for other matters.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Najarian.
So I appreciate the concept to pay as you go, if you will, and save the $160,000 in finance fees. There's a couple things that I think are, that we need to think about. Number one is, what if we pay the shortfall out of Measure S, and this is a $17 million project, and what if there are cost overruns? Like, who's ever heard of that before? And all it takes is a 1% cost overrun.
Right.
1% on 17 million is, even though we may have reserves put in, is 170,000. Then we're going to be in the situation where we haven't borrowed. We've put in the extra 4 million from Measure S, on top of the 2 million already that we've put in, on top of the Parks Mitigation Fund, and then we're going to be saying, bring some more, encumber some more of our Measure S money. So I'm a little bit, if this were something where we know this was a set fee that we wouldn't have to worry about overruns or project management issues, I'd be a little more inclined to go your route, to pay in advance and know that that's it we're done with it. But I am afraid, as with any construction project, I mean, I've experienced some of these with the city and some with other agencies. Cost overruns is the rule more than it is the exception. And that would concern me, you know, having, of course, we might not be here. Maybe some of you will. You know, in 10 years or in, what's the completion date? 2 years or 1 year?
The construction?
Yeah.
2 years,
2
20
years.
months.
So in 2 years, well, maybe we'll be here in 2 years.
We better
To
be.
come back and say, look, there were, you know, in some of my other agencies, the biggie is underground utilities. We didn't realize there were these underground utilities. The state of the as submitted drawings didn't properly indicate the state of the subsurface conditions. And you know how these contractors are. They're going to add it up, change order here, extra here, and we're going to be stuck with no other way to pay for that except already encumbering Measure S further. I'm not sure that 4% is such a good deal, though. I mean, our municipal bonds are much less than 4%, aren't they? I mean, aren't they like 2%? So this is sort of goes to what Mr. Brotman was saying, is maybe finance can put that in perspective. If I go out, heck, you can get a car loan for less than 4%. And this is encumbered money with a dedicated source that's, you know, backed by the full faith of the U.S. government and the HUD agency. So I'm not sure that the 4% is that good. That's sort of like a separate issue. I'm sort of adding that on top of my let's save our Measure S money in case there is an overrun. But is 4% that good of a deal? I know rates are tending upwards, but our municipal bonds are much less than 4%.
That is accurate, Councilmember
Right, I
Najarian.
So in the best world, if we can get a better deal than 4% somewhere, I would be enthusiastically advocating to get the loan and then keep our Measure S money in reserve, keep our powder dry. I don't know who said that. But in that event, then, with the disappointment of a cost overrun, we could always dip into Measure S.
Well, thank you. I want to thank my colleagues because it was just an idea I was
Yeah.
floating. It was not going to die on that hill. And,
No, it's a good savings. I mean, I think it was creative thinking that
thank you.
we need to discuss, and I appreciate the proposal.
Thank you. But what about this, Mr. Galanian, about looking for a less expensive loan, a lower percentage?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Member City Council, the only challenge, like I mentioned, is whether this project, this type of project would qualify to borrow against. CDBG funds is available, and we can borrow from our allocation of CDBG for this type of project. We have to look for other sources if that's council's desire to borrow from another pool of money. We just have to go do some research.
Madam Mayor, what if,
I'll get you.
so
Go
what
ahead,
if we
Attorney.
what if we pay it with Measure S, but we backfill Measure S with our CDBG each year?
I don't know that you can do that.
You can't do that?
Yeah, I don't think you
CDBG
can.
funds can't be used to backfill a,
I mean, if it's a legitimate CDBG purpose, I guess, but that's why this mechanism is often floated by HUD as a way to use the CDBGs as a source of repayment.
of direct repayment
Right.
as opposed to backfill. Okay.
Okay. Mr. Ajinian.
Yeah, I just want to know that because it's a public park project, you know, the public's going to see this. Public's going to comment on this. At any cost, if we can avoid cost overruns more than anything else, we can lock in somehow not to have any cost overruns. I think it's a wonderful project. And with the construction date, the finish date, I'm all in for support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so where are we then with this,
I would
the
like-
loan and?
I would like to move the
Yep.
item as has been mentioned here item 4A, the way it has been presented, to move the item.
Okay.
I'll
Is there
second
a
that.
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
I'm hesitating here because I thought we were gonna perhaps get some more information before we make a decision. I'll abstain for the moment.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Well, before I vote, what's the time sensitivity on this? Like, how soon, if we were to do this, do we need to get the loan? You said 3 to 5 months loan app?
Yeah, we would need to submit the application by January.
Madam
I mean, I don't
Mayor,
want to delay it. Mr. Kasakian will
yeah, Madam Mayor, members of City Council.
kill us if we do.
So we will, Councilmember Najarian, we will need to have funds allocated at the time when bring the item back with the recommendation to award the contract. So assume that will be, because we started the bidding process, I believe. So in 3 to 4 months, we should, like I said, have the money in the bank to be able to make a recommendation to council to award the contract. So can it be?
Would that give,
we can-
would that give you enough time to look for another loan?
We can, Madam Mayor, do some research within the next couple of weeks and bring an item back for your consideration. Anytime later than that, it's going to have an impact on the schedule. But
So-
we'll do our best if that's the council's desire.
All right, well, I'm going to vote yes, but with the understanding that you'll still do some investigation as to the loan, other alternative loan availability at lower rates.
Okay, and I'll change my vote to a yes on that same basis.
Yes, excuse me.
Yeah.
When we are voting on this, we are hoping that you will look for the best interest rate. I mean, we are not saying the 4% rate, and if you have the opportunity to find a lower rate, we are not saying you have to get it for 4%. If you have time, you will get the loan based on that. We are asking to loan $4 million, but with the best interest that you can find.
Madam
Well,
Mayor,
not-
That's the
Madam
purpose.
Mayor,
not-
members, City Council, Councilmember Agajanian, this particular item is pertaining to the $4 million application for a $4 million loan from CDBG with a 4% interest rate. But depending on the direction that council gives us, like I said, we can do some research and find out if there are other sources, pools of money that we can tap into, borrow from at a lower interest rate. We'll bring the item back.
But
But
we
if you
could
want us to.
reconsider it, move
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
reconsideration
so,
at that time.
So we have a motion on the floor, which I guess we should vote down and make another motion to that effect for staff to look for a better loan.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to turn to our esteemed city attorney to see if we
Please, yes.
can add to the
Yes.
motion with that condition.
Can I just have somebody make a new motion? I mean, we're right in the middle of a vote, and it's okay. And maybe we can,
Postpone?
first, you can make that motion as well, but I don't think that's what's being suggested, Councilmember Agajani. So maybe what we can do is first have a motion to reconsider, just so that we can clear the record.
Move to reconsider, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Okay, all right, we have that. Do we vote on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
and Mayor Devine.
Yes.
And then what?
So I would move that we direct staff to investigate the availability of lower cost loans than the 4% that we have available from HUD, and that they present their findings to council no later than the time in which we need to lock in a loan one way or the other prior to the signing of bid or contract documents for the construction of Fremont Park.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Agajanian, Councilmember Agajanian, roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Kasakian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
And Mayor Devine.
Yes, thank you all for the good discussion and the final outcome. I appreciate that. Next item, please.
Next item would be 5, Community Services and Parks regarding approval of funding recommendations by the Glendale Continuum of Care, COC, Board for the submission of the Glendale COC funding application to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development as part of the 2021 COC Notice of Funding Opportunity Competition. A, council motion to approve the 2021 Continuum of Care Program priorities and authorize submission of a grant application to the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development on behalf of the Glendale COC under 2021 COC program competition as recommended by the COC board, and authorize the city manager or designee to execute all agreements, certifications, and documents necessary to accept and implement the funding. B, Housing Authority motion to approve the 2021 Continuum of Care Program priorities and authorize submission of a grant application to the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development on behalf of the Glendale COC under the 2021 COC program competition as recommended by the COC board, and authorize the city manager or designee to execute all agreements, certification, documents necessary to accept and implement the funding.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Galanian.
Mayor Devine, members of City Council, Housing Authority, Chair Kasakian, members of Housing Authority, I'm going to turn this item over to Arsene Sayan, our Senior Administrative Analyst, for the presentation.
Thank you, City Manager Galanian. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the Council, good afternoon, Chair Kasakian, members of the Housing Authority. My name is Arsene Sayan, and I'm here today to provide a brief presentation of the 2021 Notice of Funding Opportunity COC competition application.
Give me a minute, let me bring it up.
Sure.
I think we had there, that's the wrong one. There we go.
There we go.
There you go.
We are here today to provide an overview of the 2021 Notice of Funding Opportunity application process. We are also here to request the City Council and Housing Authority's approval of the COC Board's funding recommendations related to our 2021 NOFO application. Each year, HUD releases the NOFO, and this year they've made about $2.65 billion available to all of the COCs nationwide. And the goal of the COC program is to help promote a community-wide effort in ending homelessness. And this year, the Glendale COC really focused its local priorities and aligned its local priorities with HUD's policy priorities, which is to end homelessness in our community. How is our COC effectively engaging our service providers and effectively serving all of those who are experiencing homelessness in Glendale? And how are we utilizing our housing first approach? What barriers are we eliminating in our programs to make sure that our clients are quickly accessing our services in our COC? One other area that we focused on this year was partnering with our healthcare service providers. How are we maximizing the resources that we have locally and regionally with our mainstream service providers to help those who are in need? One other area that we focused heavily on this year as part of our application process is the racial equity. How is our COC identifying disparities in our community? What are we doing to enhance built-in strategies to improve our referral process for our COC housing programs and services? And of course, this year, we, as in previous years, we have involved people with lived experience. In fact, our COC board consists of a board member who is of lived experience, and they are involved in our planning process and our decision-making process for our COC program. We also focused on our response to COVID-19, each agency's response to COVID-19, and how we were able to quickly mobilize and provide services and establish protocols to better serve the most vulnerable population in our community. So these were the main areas that we focused on this year as part of our application process. The City of Glendale serves as the collaborative applicant during this annual competitive process. And we have been receiving COC program funds from HUD since 1996. We have received over $58 million in federal funding through this competition, this annual process. The city does issue an RFP following the release of the NOFO. This year, the RFP, the request for proposal, was issued on September 15th. And I'm happy to say that all of our 8 projects, our existing COC program projects, will be renewing. And we also did, I'm happy to say, we received 2 new projects. The total funding amount available this year is a little bit over $3.1 million. The existing projects that we currently have, the service providers are Sensia, Salvation Army, Family Promise, and of course the City of Glendale also administers a rental assistance program. We currently have 43 people in this program where we provide rental subsidy. We also receive planning dollars from HUD to focus on improving our existing COC, and also working on our coordinated entry system. The 2 new applications that we received as part of this process are supportive services only projects. Family Promise of the Verdugos currently serves as our lead service provider for homeless families. So anyone who is experiencing homelessness and is a family can go through Family Promise to receive services. They are our direct point of contact. The Ywca of Glendale and Pasadena serves as our lead agency for those who are fleeing domestic violence or have been victims of DV. So this year we have a very unique opportunity to fund these 2 agencies so that we could support the services that they provide. Currently, as it stands, these 2 agencies are doing the work, however, they are not receiving COC dollars. On October 14th, our Continuum of Care Board met, and we have a recommended total funding in the amount of little over $3.1 million. As you can see, we have a list of existing projects, renewal projects, totaling 8, and we also have the 2 new projects that we will be requesting funding for. Just to add, this year was a very unique opportunity for our COC, hence why NOFA is actually changed to NOFO. We really use this as an opportunity to work with our agencies, to strategize and see what are our gaps in our services, what are some of the needs that our agencies need support from the lead agency, the City of Glendale. We did receive our full annual renewal demand, which is the $2.6 million. In previous years, we did not receive 100% of our annual renewal demand needed in order to fund all of our existing projects, which would force us, the COC, to rank certain projects in Tier 1 and Tier 2, and we would jeopardize losing some of the funding for our existing projects. This year, thankfully, we did receive 100% of our annual renewal demand. I think that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the COC. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, real quick question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ginian.
since HUD requires ranking, what kind of overall ranking do we show to HUD as a city on these?
Housing Authority member Ajanian, that's actually a great question. HUD does require the COCs to establish a scoring and ranking tool. As part of our RFP process, when the City of Glendale, the COC, puts out the RFP process, we do also require all of our agencies to follow a specific ranking process. We did establish a scoring tool this year, which is a new tool that we used. And one of the things we did as well this year that we haven't done in the past is we've made this a very transparent process. All of our scoring tools are available on the city's website on the Homeless Services homepage. And we've looked at many factors when we established the scoring tool. We had some threshold requirements. For example, the experience of each of our agencies, the performance measures, if our agencies are meeting their outcomes. We utilize the Homeless Management Information System, and this is required by all of our agencies to gather data on our homeless population. So this was another area that we looked at, the data quality. how are our agencies responding to the system and if they're able to meet our data quality standards for the Glendale COC. Of course, expenditures was a huge factor for our existing agencies. Are they able to fully utilize the funding that is made available to them on an annual basis? So there were multiple factors that went into consideration when we were establishing the scoring and ranking tool. And we also felt that it was important as a COC to involve the community and to inform the community on how we are evaluating these projects. Staff was very critical this year during the application process. We really spent time analyzing each application, and we developed a staff analysis that was presented to our board. The agencies also had an opportunity to respond to any questions that our board had. They were present. We had an interview process with each of the agencies. And we also just kind of looked at the overall systems. How are we performing right now? This is a collective application. The Glendale COC serves as the collaborative applicant. So we submit the consolidated application. All of the project applications, if one agency doesn't perform, it does impact the overall score. So it was really important to get together collectively, identify the gaps, the needs, and also develop that scoring criteria. And most importantly, make it available so that the public and the community gets involved in the process as well. So I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, great job, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any of my colleagues have a comment, question?
I would like to move the item.
I have a question.
Councilmember Najarian?
Thank you. So with Family Promise of the Verdugos and the YWCA of Glendale and Pasadena, I believe, I'm pretty sure that they serve people outside of the city of Glendale also. How are those funds that come into the Glendale COC dedicated to the residents of Glendale and not to, I mean, not to seem crass about it, but to Pasadena or to Burbank or any other outside of Glendale individual?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Najarian, that's an excellent question. Yes, Family Promise of the Verdugos does serve clients that are outside of Glendale. They do work with other cities as well for programming. One of the things that's great about the COC program is that we're able to have a shared database. The Homeless Management Information Systems is a requirement. All of our agencies have to enter the clients in the system. And the Glendale COC, the way we input the information, it's name-based. So each of our clients that come through for services, we enter their names, the information into the system. So that's how we're able to tell where the clients are coming from. We run monthly reports, we check for data quality, and we also check to see at what point were these clients assisted, what point of entry did they go through? Were they referred from LA? Were they referred from Burbank? All of that information is available in our system. And Family Promise, since they are currently one of our agencies, they do utilize the system, and we have a geocode to be specific. So we're able to tell where the clients are coming from. And if they're coming from outside of Glendale, we do still serve the clients. However, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing, the funding for our homeless population here in Glendale. So we are looking at that more closely.
Thank you.
Excuse me,
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, excuse me.
Yeah, Councilman Najarian? I'm sorry, Agajanian?
We are serving the homeless population, right? Under this item, COC, whatever. So it's hard to say that homeless is from Glendale or Pasadena, they move from one place to another. How are you gonna say this is from Glendale? So we spend our money on the homeless population of Glendale. It's very hard. How are you gonna do that?
Councilmember Akajanian, I do understand. I think homelessness is not just a local issue, of course. We do work with other outside service agencies. In fact, most of our clients that come through the Glendale COC, they are non-Glendale homeless. They do tend to move around from program to program. A lot of them come to us from LA County, Pasadena. However, we do establish a waiting list, or we're actually in the process of establishing a waiting list specifically for our Glendale homeless clients, because we do want to make sure that we are providing the services here locally as well and prioritizing placement for those individuals in Glendale and families. It is important to keep our homeless numbers down, but most importantly, to make sure that we're reaching out to everyone that is currently homeless locally here in our streets. So the Glendale COC does not turn anyone away. Our Access Center, Essentia, serves as our CES lead. Anyone who walks through our doors, we make sure that we provide service. But I think it is important to also look at locally prioritizing housing and homeless services to our clients here in Glendale.
Yeah, thank you. I think the concept is that you throw out a wide net and you catch as many Glendalians as you can, but along the way you catch others as well, correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor, that is correct.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I really can't think of two nonprofits that deserve help, more help than Family Promise and Ywca. They both do a great job. So with that, I know Councilmember Agajanian, you moved this item?
Yes, City Council.
Okay.
I move item 5A for City Council.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
and Mayor Devine.
Yes.
Can we have a motion and a second for 5B?
I move item 5B for Housing Authority.
Second.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Authority Member Agajanian,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Parazian,
Yes.
and Chair Kasakian.
Yes.
Thank you. What's next, please?
Adjournment.
For City
Move
Council,
to adjourn.
please.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Do we have a motion and second to adjourn for housing?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
We are adjourned at 3:26. Thank you all very much. Now we move on to council. Roll call, please, for council.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Present, I'm sorry.
Present. Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
and Mayor Devine.
Here. What's next, please?
One will be closed session, 1A conference with legal counsel pending litigation, Medlicam versus the City of Glendale, LASC case number 19STCV20890. B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, claim of Kennedy Wilson Holdings, claim number 21-026.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, do you expect to report out on either of these items?
We don't anticipate reporting out on either item, Madam Mayor.
Then we will recess to closed session. Thank you.
Thank you.